It's Wednesday, October 26th, 2011. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights tonight because I am actually in Japan. We are continuing with our coverage of the new 52, Week 2. Boogaloo.
Let's do this.
So as promised, Week 2 of the 52. We'll just go right down the list.
I can't wait for this to be over. All right, so.
I feel like Week 1 was better. Like, I enjoyed reading Week 1, even though
according to my, I don't remember, because I read these a while ago, but looking at my little spreadsheet here, Week 2 was the worst week by far.
Week 2 was definitely the worst week.
All right, so let's just go into it. The first one was Batman and Robin.
So here's what pisses me off.
Yet another Batman book.
Right away. Obviously, they know Batman is their strongest franchise because Batman is in, like, all these comics.
Yeah, like 30 to 40% of the books.
Every Batman is different, like way different in how he's presented, and it's kind of annoying. It's not the same Batman in all the different books. It's the same thing with the Superman. The Action Comic Superman was clearly not the Superman in the other books. It's like these are like different people here, but you're supposed to try to tell me it's the same person? I can't believe it. The Superman was a little like there was too much of him being kind of sardonic and Robin being a punk-ass bitch kid.
Yeah, it's like you don't know if you're getting mad Batman or sad Batman or...
I was getting like stern dad Batman.
Right. It's like which one is going to show up this time? You know, I mean, fan fiction does a better job of getting characters right than this. You know, it's like if I go read, a fan fiction of, say, Spider-Man, it's going to be Spider-Man.
Spider-Man having sex with a tiger version of Spider-Man.
Right. Even though he's doing weird things, his personality will be recognizable as Spider-Man because, when people do fan fiction, they know it's because they like the character and they make the character like the character. Here, it's like, who is Batman really? What is Batman's personality? Well,
but a miserable pile of sad.
It depends which of the different 13 or 14 different books you read, because there's a different Bruce Wayne is in each one.
At least we know that the worst Batman was from last week on Justice League International.
Yeah.
That was like Guy in Batman's
That was Super Friends Batman.
Maybe that's it. There are like 10 guys who are Batman, and they're all actually different.
Well, that actually, I think, from what I understand, is there was a Batman Incorporated something where they're like franchised Batmans.
Well, isn't that like Nightwing?
I don't know. I think they were actually Batmans who are not Bruce Wayne.
Is it Batmans
But
or
the thing is,
Batman?
all of these Batmans are Bruce Wayne. Batman Incorporated was like, okay, you're Batman. You're another Batman. You're Batman Paris or something, and you're not not Bruce Wayne.
So
these are all supposed to be Bruce Wayne and Batman.
I guess with this one, the plot started out okay, but I don't need to deal with Batman dealing with his parents' deaths. No longer interests me.
Well, that's another I liked in some of the other books. It skipped over the origin bullshit, but
this one it kind of kept this is the last time I'm gonna celebrate the death. I'm gonna celebrate the life instead, and that was all neat and good. But it's tired because Batman's a tired old character. I don't care anymore that he's sad that his parents were killed by whoever killed them, depending on what continuity you're looking at.
Okay, so here's the notes that I wrote. Right, so first. The art, a lot of the art looked like they were underwater when they weren't underwater.
Yeah.
There's like a haze over it or something. I don't know what's up with that.
It wasn't that bad, though. I kind of like the art.
No, it's not too bad. It was just average. Okay, this is what I understand. You have all these different Robins, right? There's like...
I guess they're all dead from the past?
There's like 4 or 5 of them, and I think the dead ones are back to life or whatever. I don't know. But here's the question, right? That Justice League #1. I keep going back to that Justice League #1 because it was the first book that came out, right? That Justice League #1 was supposed to be how many years ago? 5 years ago.
So in the span of 5 years...
In the span of 5 years, there are all those Robins? Really? Really?
Not only that...
Really?
This is supposed to be a #1.
You started from scratch, and you've already fucked it up.
And I'm fine if you start in media res. I like that, in fact. But I feel like too many of these #1s are trying to shoehorn in backstory that nerds already know anyway to have an excuse to use it.
Well, this
in
one
#2s
did not help itself by shoehorning in like Adam West with the bat poles and the. I'm surprised they didn't. I'm surprised they used the clock to open it and not the Shakespeare busts.
That was actually part of my problem with this one, is that it was a little too
campy in its plot.
It's
but yet,
weird. It tried to take the campiness and put like a dark shade in front of it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. There's a veneer of, dark, badass Batman, but underneath it's Adam West.
Yeah.
I think the biggest example of that was that the radiation was going to leak out, and Batman just totally busts open the pool that happens to be above it, and has
that pool might as well have been shark repellent.
When he had the net to catch all the kids who fell through the hole.
Yeah.
That did it. But then they're dark when Robin effectively totally was like, I'm going to fucking kill those guys. Shut up, Batman. You're not the boss of me. I can kill people if I want to.
The other thing I didn't like was there's something going on in Moscow. Right? And obviously they're going to tie it in later, but it's like you're reading two separate things going on that aren't related at all within the entire comic. It's like a comic book is a single work, so you can have that disjoint kind of show me one place, show me the other place over like a trade. But this is a single comic. It has to make sense within itself. So all that Moscow stuff just felt thrown in and out of nowhere because it never tied together within the entire issue.
Well, it did, in that the Moscow guy probably wanted the radioactive Doomedads that Batman stopped from being stolen.
The only way you can assume that is because they happen to be in the same book on adjacent pages.
Which is why I assume. Oh, also because the guy lowered the two dead guys from before into that vat of acid.
Anyway.
Which was kind of a weird scene in the way it was drawn.
Right.
Like, they're kind of hanging in space. It felt like they were going with almost two different styles in these, Moscow and, I guess, Gotham. Didn't feel like Gotham.
So anyway, I gave this a meh. What'd you give this?
I almost want to say it's bad. Like, it's not even worth my time. I don't care. I'm going to say bad.
All right.
Because I wouldn't read number 2 even if we had it.
Well,
I just don't care.
I also don't care. All right. Batwoman. Not Batgirl. Batwoman.
All right.
I don't remember this really because it's been a while and I don't have the book on hand to bring it back to memory.
Is really pale. I don't know anything about Batwoman, but I was talking to Daryl Surratt about this, and he told me that Batwoman, this one was written before the 52 thing happened.
Really?
Which is why it kind of just picks up with, it's funny because it kind of works as number 1 because it's completely in media res with zero backstory. It's just, hey, Batwoman. Here's Batwoman.
I wrote down, let's see, the plot can't stay focused, and I wrote down that the art was actually awesome.
Yeah, it started out really strong. Batwoman's investigating the ghost that's drowning people.
Right. And there's like a teenage gang or something, and she goes after, right?
That was like an afterthought. It was almost like an Adam West flashback to her and
it's
her
all coming back to me.
Equivalent of Robin.
There's like a weird serial killing kind of thing going around, and she's chasing it, and she ends up at like some house.
But independently, she's got her Robin, who has a superhero name, I guess. I don't know anything.
I
don't
think I don't think that person is a Robin. I think it's actually a superhero girlfriend from another group or something.
But now she's training to be Batwoman's Robin.
Yeah, something like that.
But she had a uniform from before, and Batwoman seems to do the same dialogue. It might as well be Batman when she's in Batwoman mode.
Yeah. I wrote, this is bad. I don't want it.
The art was good to a degree. I liked
the art was great. But
I really liked that 2-page
else.
spread of like all the people talking around like the center image of the kind of drowned woman Rusalka, almost like a stained glass thing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the plot really was
Make an art book, dude.
If the plot had just straight up been Batwoman investigates the ghost that murders children.
Yeah, they could have concentrated on it and only on like one murder as opposed to the whole string. It felt like they were running around.
It could have been the whole string. That would have been fine if it didn't also have the I'm training a Robin and all that other. If it had just been that story, like one episode of BTAS.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
I mean, it was meh. It wasn't bad. I would read it, but I wouldn't buy it.
All right.
Definitely a meh. It wasn't grabbing me.
So far we got meh bad and bad meh.
And I wonder why she's so pale.
All right, so Deathstroke. I actually remember this.
I liked this one kind of.
Really?
Because it reminded me of Cable.
Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
Basically, you have this, some government, another acronym organization he wants to hire, or government thing wants to hire a guy to do something.
But Deathstroke's too old. It's almost like a Dark Knight Returns situation.
He's too old for this shit, but he's the ultimate badass assassin guy. He gets the job done like Go-Go 13.
All right, obviously spoilers. Fuck
I actually wrote Go-Go 13.
He basically is Go-Go 13. I kind of actually did not see coming him murdering his entire team at the end of the first issue.
I saw that coming.
I didn't know anything about this character.
Because he was basically, I didn't know anything about him either, but I know he's like an incredible badass. The loner, awesome assassin, Go 13 guy, and he gets tricked into working with these kids. As usually in those cases, it's like, the guy will be like, oh yeah, I'm not working with these kids, get them the fuck out of here. But he actually went along with it, and as soon as he went along with it, I'm like, oh, they're all gonna die.
Well, I thought they were gonna die.
He wouldn't go along with it if he wasn't gonna teach them a lesson about how he works alone.
I thought they were going to die in the course of the mission or something. I did not
like
expect him to.
If Go 13 got an assistant, they would be dead.
I did not expect them to be murdered by him just outright.
Especially
at the end of the
because
issue.
they weren't superheroes, you knew that they were done, right? And then, I was like, when he killed them, I was like, oh, the slightly clever idea of instead of them dying on the mission, he killed them. Okay, cool, whatever.
He's a little too stereotypical badass, though. I feel like if I want to read this kind of story, I'll read Go 13.
Yeah, it's like
if I want to read about an emotionless, unstoppable killing machine, that's what I'm going to read.
Exactly. He was even though he was a badass, he was such a vanilla badass. He didn't have any, like, at least Deadpool has, like, humor or attempts at humor, or failed attempts. At least there is an attempt. They don't even try. It's just like he's just a badass. There's no, even Go 13 has a style with his quiet and his ... and is always, raping some girl or whatever. But this guy had nothing other than I kill people and I'm awesome at it. The end.
And I work alone. I'm not too old for this shit.
Right. Also, do you notice on the one page, like they threw in a J. Jonah Jameson? It's like, what? This isn't Marvel Comics, dude.
Even otherwise, I mean, like the actual action that was going on, like when he boards that plane, it reminded me of Air Force One in that it was
boarding the plane in flight is an old, like, we need the extreme action scene. Let's do this.
But the action was otherwise just kind of lame. And they threw in the weird alien plot and then immediately forgot about the weird alien plot.
Yeah.
Granted, it's one issue. I'm sure that's going to come back.
Obviously. Yeah, I had no intention of reading this.
Why didn't they just fucking shoot the plane down? They did not need to send him onto the plane.
Because it wouldn't have made it such a badass action scene. He wouldn't have been a badass if he just shot a rocket at a plane.
It's meh.
I put bad.
I put meh on it because I wouldn't mind knowing what he does next. If someone told me,
I just don't care at all. If he had some,
I can't say bad on something like this because I got other things to say bad about.
Right. Well, if he had some character to him, I would have put maybe even good. It was that just made that huge difference. There it was just that there was no character at all. In fact, those kids that died had actual character to them.
They were a stereotypical 24 assistant, basically.
Yeah, but actually, I would have rather read a book about them. Would have been meh.
You just read a book about them.
But a book about Deathstroke would have been bad. Anyway, it's bad. All right, so Demon Knights.
So this is just straight up fantasy, but it's written like superhero comic.
Right. It was so weird because like when it started getting all fantasy, I was like, oh, actually, I
was kind of digging it. Like, all right,
liking even though it's a little bit of that R.A. Salvatore kind of fantasy,
but like the bad guys
okay.
had their thing where you get the sense that they're conflicted villains, like they're doing evil for a greater good. At least they believe it to be a greater good. Like
it felt almost like a Slayers plot without the comedy.
I was also reminded slightly of, take the plot of Bone, not the character,
like a light surface level fantasy that's not like it's not a Lord of the Rings or a Prince of Nothing. It's just a adventure-y party going to stabby.
Yep. I mean, like the child's death was regrettable, and all this. The villains
and
were
also
conflicted enough to be
cover
interesting.
art was hideous. I looked at the cover and I was like, blech. But then when I looked in the book, I was like, oh, this is pretty great.
Yeah, I liked seeing Merlin.
Yeah.
And I liked how the demon is like, the guy who I'm possessing is kind of a fuckwit, but whatever.
Yeah, and like he talks, they're in the inn, and the inn explodes, of course.
Yep.
And the girl is like, she acts like she's friends with the guy who's possessed by the demon, sort of a Birdie the Mighty, almost. But then when the demon comes out, she's like, yeah, let's just not let that jerk know.
Yeah, I like it rough.
Yeah.
They start making out, and then they fight, and then at the end, it's like, But it got a little derpy at the end when the villains are like, we'll do what we always do when there's a problem. We throw dragons at it, and then oh shit, a dragon appears and attacks the end.
Yeah, I think that, that derpiness combined with the fact that the plot was a little bit all over the place. Like it didn't have enough focus. I think that's what put it to meh. If they would have just made it kept with that fantasy aspect more strongly, as could have been good, but it's meh.
Yeah, I would like it, but they got too much superhero on my fantasy.
Yeah. I think it's...
Also, the action scenes where they're actually fighting in the end were pretty incomprehensible.
Yeah, so
I couldn't tell what was going on, and I lost track of who was who, and it kept, focusing on all these other people that I worry that maybe people who know these characters would recognize them, but I had no idea.
Now, I'd known about the demon because he was in Wednesday Comics, but the Wednesday Comics is nothing like this at all. It might as well have been a separate character.
So it came down to meh.
It's like Demon Etrigan? Yeah, meh.
Yeah.
All right, but
could have been good.
Could have been good. Had potential, unfulfilled potential.
So let's talk about the other Jeff Lemire.
So Jeff Lemire, who is so far done no wrong,
Agent of Acronym
Group. Yeah. So the first, if you notice, the first 2 pages actually look like they're like a Jeff Lemire book. I'm pretty sure he drew those first 2 pages. Especially that second page looks a lot like the Sweet Tooth. With that dead dog there and everything, and the monsters coming out of the woods, right? So I was reading these first 3 pages, and I'm like, yeah, Jeff Lemire, all right. After those first 3 pages, it's like, is it still Jeff Lemire, right? It's like...
Yeah, I kind of wish it would have kept up with what it was doing. It turned into a weird... It reminds me of manga.
Really?
Like random...
I was not reminded of that at all.
Partly because the mad scientist put himself in the body of a schoolgirl, and
okay, yeah, that visual aspect, sure,
and just the kind of the way the mad scientist talked, it reminded me of Washu from Tenchi Muyo.
Okay,
a lot.
Yeah, this reminded me more of crappy Hellboy wannabe, right? I think Jeff Lemire was definitely phoning it in on this, or at least I feel like he was. It's just okay, acronym science organization gets group of powerful guys together to go fight acronym bad guy organization.
Now, it could have been fun if it had been a little more over the top.
Exactly, that's true.
It didn't go over the top enough.
Right, it's like you had this mummy who was kind of silly and mysterious, and some of these other characters.
And Frankenstein's like, "Where's my wife? Whatever. I'm too old for this shit."
But see, that's what I'm saying. Is Hellboy goes to the extremes. He either gets the really funny BPRD kind of Hellboy wisecracking, or the incredibly dark Cthulhu Hellboy. Right? This was just sort of in between, with both at the same time. Hellboy shows you one, and then the other. Back and forth. This had them both at the same time, all the time, in the middle. Yeah,
it never felt
work.
dark or serious. It just felt like it was trying to be funny.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole explanation of we made our base in this tiny microscopic bullshit explanation.
Oh, yeah. The base. This is the one with the base and the floating ball, right? Are you seriously telling me no one just come and smash that fucking thing?
You don't
You
need
kidding
to
me?
explain your bullshit to me. And if you're gonna explain it in context. Don't just, tell me it, and it's stupid.
And it didn't matter at all.
Maybe if it had mattered, if they'd explained that, and then 4 pages later, Frankenstein ate it or something, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But if they didn't do that, I don't
just a bunch of proper nouns and nonsense.
I don't want to say bad because I kind of like the art, but I don't want to read more of it because I just don't give a shit.
I put bad. Jeff Lemire, no one's perfect.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you and put bad.
But bad
because I'm not gonna read more.
Oh man.
So all right. I feel like we should do Green Lantern #1 and Red Lanterns together.
Real? Okay, we can skip around. So Green Lantern.
DC. You told me that these were 52 #1s. That I can start reading this, and I don't need to know about your universe. So who the fuck is Sinestro? Why are there all these lanterns?
I think it's Sinestro.
Whatever. This made no goddamn sense. I might as well have picked up Green Lantern issue 1008.
Yeah,
for all that
pretty
this
much.
Made
this
sense.
is go listen to our episode we did about Green Lantern Rebirth, because this Green Lantern is still the same shit, even though it's how many issues later, same crap.
Everything is explained in the stupid, derpy comic book superhero way. All these characters, I don't know who they are. Pointless exposition. Ludicrous space sector gobbledygook bullshit. What the hell? This doesn't even seem to
only make sense if you already know. And the thing is, it's not that it, at least it partially makes sense, even though I know so little about Green Lantern.
It does. Obviously, this is a bad guy who is forced to be a good guy, doesn't want to be, but he's probably actually really good at heart for whatever reason.
Right.
And he's gonna be the reluctant good guy in the end.
But here's the thing, right? There's two aspects to the continuity, right? That you only get this comic because you read what came before. One is the understanding, right? I don't know what's going on because I don't know the history of Green Lantern. This doesn't have that problem that much. It has a little bit, but not that much. The problem it really has is I don't care because I haven't read the hit, right? It's like, unless you're already invested and you care about these characters and already know about them, unless you already care, this comic has no meaning for you. It's like, what's the emotional impact of this guy saying this thing if I don't already care about Green Lanterns?
And I don't care.
It only has an emotional impact if you already know and care. So even if you understand it, the fact that you don't care makes the whole comic just completely vacant of anything.
I read it and I felt nothing at the end. Green Lantern is bad, but it bothers me too. I don't like continuity between, comics, the whole, I got to read all these comics to make sense of it. But the Green Lantern stuff going on in all the other DC comics seems to have no goddamn relation to this Green Lantern stuff.
Well, that's no different from the Batman or the Superman stuff.
But it's like almost negative continuity.
Yeah, see, this is, I was surprised at the other, some of the other Jeff Johns books. I've always hated everything he's ever done. We're actually kind of okay, but this one is typical Jeff Johns. Don't give a shit.
But as bad as Green Lantern was, Red Lanterns take
somehow worse. I wish I had double bad.
First off, I gotta bring this up again. There's a page when the Red Lantern woman with the gigantic boobs and the skeleton wings.
What page number is it?
There's no page numbers.
Oh, okay.
It is page. Let's see, if I count every page other than the cover, including the ads, but not including the cover piece of paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On page 7, she's picking poop out of her butt.
She sure is.
She just pulled her finger out of her butt and there's poop on it.
There is.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
There's no other way to interpret that.
That's one of those accidental arts, right? Because he just drew someone in a typical comic pose.
But why did they draw the poop?
He drew the typical comic pose of someone with their hand in a claw behind them to be menacing, like, right? And it just so happened that the hand is supposed to be in front of the butt, not on the butt.
But the finger is...
But the finger happens to align with the edge of the butt. And they also did that thing where there's sort of sparks coming off the finger.
But they're black poop sparks.
But
it's
because
poop.
the finger's near the butt and the sparks, it looks like she just picked some
poop,
dingleberries
There
out.
are not black poop sparks on her other hand or on any of her other fingers. It is just the finger that just picked the butt.
Okay.
And I don't know what's going on. There's
no clue.
I guess there's a bunch of Red Lanterns and they're all insane except for one of them.
Yeah, it's just like there's a pack of wild dogs.
And they're almost like they say weird stuff, like they're trying to think, but they can't. They're full of rage and they're fighting with each other.
Well, I think
all the time.
The Red Lanterns are supposed to be, if my understanding is correct, the rage, right? Each lantern's supposed to mean something.
But the main Red
colors.
Lantern doesn't have this problem.
So it's like Red Lantern is rage, and I think orange is greedy or something.
But the main Red Lantern is totally like with it, and he's just kind of like musing over things. But then like a fever pod explodes nearby and covers him in blood, and the pain is unbearable. And I just, fever pod? Like, what?
Is this the one where the ring started running away from people, or was that a different one?
That's the other one.
Okay.
This is just weird bullshit.
Here, let me see it again. I haven't.
And then it cuts to this weird flashback where the Red Lantern guy's like, my whole sector got wiped out, and it shows his family getting killed in front of his eyes. That is one of the most derpy, poorly executed examples of that.
Oh wow,
I've
there's
ever
like
seen.
Nothing really happens in this at all, does it?
No, other than the poop.
Flipping through it and like there's nothing that happens. It's basically just a bunch of Red Lanterns going, "Rah, we're Red Lanterns, rah!"
Yep, and the guy saying it sucks. Everything's
and what the
pain.
fuck? This cat, the double page spread of the cat lantern. It's like that cat lantern is there just for like fanboy
I know
appeal.
the poop.
Like,
got a
oh my
single
god,
page.
there's a cat lantern. Lols. They should have made the cat long. It would have been funnier.
Naito manga makes more sense than this Red Lantern I just read. However, this Red Lantern still is a paragon of linear storytelling compared to Legion Lost.
You want to go to Legion? All right, Legion Lost.
Oh, I guess we didn't actually review that yet, did we?
No. Do you want to? Let's go
give me my list back. Legion Lost. I wrote notes for these.
Legion Lost is the worst.
So I got to say, I wrote a note for another one. I threw away the notes I wrote from week 1 since we're already past on week 2. But for one of the other entries, I wrote, Olmec. I wrote, and I quote, "What the fuck did I just read?"
Yeah.
I wrote that again and underlined it for Legion Lost.
Okay, so Legion Lost. I'm going to read my notes. Ready? Summer Flange. Flashpoint, break wall, proper nouns.
The girl with the antennas who transforms all the time is kind of cute.
What is after release? Bad art. At least the others that weren't really number 1 were comprehensible. I actually asked people at Comic-Con. I went to a guy that I know knows more DC comic stuff than anyone, and I asked him, Legion Lost, and he's like, yeah, there are even people who know all about the Legion that couldn't understand what the fuck was going on.
Daryl Surratt said it best. It is a number 1 we were talking on chat today, in that it's as incomprehensible as any other number 1 in Legion Lost.
Yeah, from what I understand, the Legion of Superheroes is basically in like some years in the future, way in the future from the rest of the DC universe, there's a whole legion of superheroes, like this big super team, right? And they have like flight rings, so even if they can't fly, they all get rings so they can fly.
Because otherwise, I don't know.
Right, and they all get sent, and there's a ton of them, and they're all in this one team. Like imagine if Justice League was all the heroes, and they all split up into teams and go on missions in different places. And you know, even if you read all the Legion comics from the beginning, even big fans of this sort of, it's almost like a sub-universe, like a demi-universe.
Because they time travel to multiple dimensions
right,
all over the place.
Right, they time travel all over the fuck, and there's 10 billion characters, so people don't understand it. So this Legion Lost, in particular, is about one group of Legionnaires who are in a time bubble, who they travel in time and get trapped in a place, so you have to end... Something happens there. That's all I can figure out.
I don't know if anything actually happened. I can't...
Aren't they trapped there because the time bubble is smashed and
the time
dinosaurs?
Bubble. Something's wrong. Don't let it crash. And then it crashes, and some guy yells, "The Time Institute warned the Legion of Superheroes not to ride the time stream, Timberwolf."
Yeah, first of all, this has...
My Baphomet will control yours, Scooby-Doo, until the
That's the Summer Flash.
Dad.
That's why I wrote down Summer Flash.
It's just... Everyone says things that can only be described as, "I will hit you, you little guy," with the Samaflange, because Samaflanges do Baphomet.
Right. So the thing is, this book has something that exemplifies one thing that is a problem across all superhero comics, or many of them, but this has it the most.
It's bad?
Yes, but it has the character that's not a character at all, right? Remember how I talked about how Deathstroke was sort of vanilla, but at least he was a badass.
Yep.
In this, what you have is you basically have people standing there in costumes with powers, right, and names. They're a superhero name, a superhero costume, and that's it. They don't have any personality or anything. You could just shuffle all the characters around between the speech bubbles, and it wouldn't make a difference.
Because it is much like Final Fantasy VI, where depending on who's in your party, different people say the same line. Someone needs to say, "I'm sure glad my acting at the Time Institute turned into this. Locate the Dathnorian DNA. The ring sensor array isn't working."
Right. It's like none of the characters, there are no personalities. All they are, these characters don't even exist. They're just visual designs with powers. That's all they are. And there's just tons of them. There's tons and tons of characters, but none of them are actually characters. You know, compare this to any good thing ever. Look at, say, Lord of the Rings. Well, at least in Lord of the Rings, you've got the spoony elf and the gruffy dwarf and the hobbits and the mysterious wizard, right? It's like they actually have a character to them. There's no character to these characters. They're just a picture with a name and a list of powers. And you could shuffle them all up. You could replace them all with pictures of Superman. It wouldn't make any goddamn difference. So, fuck this book. And
I don't know what I can say beyond that.
By far, I think it might be the worst of the whole thing.
How many characters are in this?
I couldn't tell you any. I can't even remember a single character from it at all.
I remember the
without looking
shape-shifting
at
girl.
it.
For whatever reason, I remember her. And
maybe everyone was just her. That's why they're all the same.
And there was a girl with wings.
Okay. I'd have to look at it to remember anything.
The rest of them, I didn't. Oh, there's a bug-looking guy. I forgot about him.
Okay.
He says a bunch of random stuff.
Sure. And the art was bad on top of that.
It was just really generic-y, comic booky, boring art.
It's like if you're going to have the bad, at least some of the other bad books had the good art, like the Batwoman. This one just bad, all 100% bad. Fire all these people. I'm sorry, guys.
I want to know if there's anyone in the world who likes this comic, and if so, I really want to know what they like about it.
I did see some people who liked it a lot. They must be like the biggest Legion fanboys in the goddamn universe or something. I don't know. Or maybe they just, that's what they like, is they like non-character, like I read, this the incredibly famous Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? So I bought it and read it just because it's so famous and important in comic history and everything, right? And it has like every DC comic superhero from, the late 80s in it or whatever, as all of them. But the thing is, on most of them, aren't actually characters. They're like this, where they appear on the page and maybe they say something, but there's no character to them. It's just that, it's like, I'm going to do a story about the Rocketeer, and I drew a picture of the Rocketeer, and that's it. He's on the page. Look at him. It's the Rocketeer. It's like, it's just a picture of the Rocketeer. It's not, he's not acting like the Rocketeer X. It's like, I could make a Back to the Future comic, and I could draw, the Professor and Marty there, but if they don't act like the Professor and Marty, just like, hey, let's go travel in time. Okay, we've traveled in time. There is danger here. It's like, they're not acting like, oh my God, Marty, what are we going to, then it's not actually them.
That was actually a pretty good Professor voice.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm giving this one a good. Just to fuck up your rating system.
You actually want me to put good for Legion Lost next to your name?
No.
Okay.
I couldn't conscience that.
All right. Grifter, which I don't really remember, but
it was really boring. The art was okay, but it was so boring. I don't care.
All right, so here's my notes. Find you with a creepy mask on easy. I think it was a guy he was trying to hide, but someone was trying to hide.
All right,
from
so
someone.
he's a grifter, and he does this really generic grift that wouldn't work on anyone.
You know what? I don't even remember there being a grift, which shows just how bad this was.
And then he gets kidnapped by aliens. They try to put an alien in his body. He wakes up during it and runs away. Now they can sense him, and he hears their voices. They live style.
Yeah, there was. I wrote "they live" with an exclamation point.
So he's sitting there, and a random person will turn to him and be like, "Find you," and he's like, "Shut the fuck up, get away from me, you bastards."
Yeah, I remember that part. I also wrote down that the art was great. I'd have to see it again to remember that. But
it was cool. It was kind of gangly, the characters.
Yeah, but it's like the fact that I remember nothing from this book at all. Like, at least Legion Lost was so bad that I remembered how bad it was. Grifter was just so nothing that I'm having a hard time remembering anything about it. I couldn't even remember what the character looked like until I looked it up on Google Image Search. And Rim left the book at work, so I can't look at it now.
It just didn't give me a compelling reason to care about his narrative. I don't care what the aliens want. It wasn't really... None of that was presented. Now, I think what they were going for is you don't know what they want. That's why it's so horrifying, but...
Yep.
Also, he jumped out of the plane before it took off, and that action scene just didn't really make any sense. The side character dialogue was dumb, and I'm going to say bad just because it was really boring.
All right.
So,
Mr. Terrific.
Might as well be Static Shock. It was the same, I'm smart, look at my science bullshit.
But he's the third smartest guy in the universe or whatever, right?
As he keeps telling me, and I don't care. He's got these 3 balls, and he throws them around. He tricks the guy that's chasing him to go to a metal thing, just like in Static Shock.
And it's like he's got like these these magic balls. He has all his powers resides in these magic balls.
He's
magic balls are him. Magic balls. The third smartest guy in the world has magic balls.
Wouldn't you if you were the third smartest guy in the world?
I would have a lot more magic balls.
More than 3?
Yeah.
So he tricks the bad guy into going by the big metal thing, and then, yeah, that's right, I threw positive and negative ions at you, and the guy's like, what? You magnetized me? And the guy's like, yeah, I did. I guess you know science. Like, no, none of you know science.
No, not even the third smartest. If that's the third smartest guy in the universe, that explains a fucking lot.
But it was the same, I science you little guy, with my Batman crap that I hate.
Also... what's the origin story? I thought we were getting away from the origin stories and all these other books, but here we go, talking about the origin of Mr. Terrific. It's like, what the fuck?
But it was a boring origin.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
And he's a boring character.
I think the idea of making a book about a really smart, just a guy who's really smart could work out. Because,
They did, Scott. He became the mayor of New York.
Sure. But I'm talking about also in Fantastic Four, right? Fantastic Four often is good. Not always, but often is good because Mr. Fantastic is really smart. And they do stories about how smart Mr. Fantastic is and how his smartness and his diligence at working so hard pulls him away from his family and all that kind of,
Yep.
And he solves problems with actual clever things as opposed to just making a Batman, although he often makes a Batman. But yeah, this Mr. Terrific is nowhere. Even the worst Fantastic Four story is 10 times better.
It was
than
all
Mr. Terrific.
Batman, and I was really annoyed by the dialogue of the bystanders, even more so than in Grifter, because there's a scene where he's up there and the crowd's like, "Who's that? Nice ass!" Like they're checking out his ass, and just the things they're saying don't make sense. No one would say things like what they were saying.
Nope. No one would say anything like any of these characters in any of these books would say.
Nah, Batman would say what Batman said in Batman #1. Well, Detective Comics #1.
Maybe.
Batman would say what Batman said in that comic.
Anyway, so Mr. Terrific, what do you give it? I say bad.
It's a meh.
Are you giving meh?
Because it was not... it wasn't actively as bad as a lot of this other stuff.
I think also I read all these week 2s in a row, and I think my mood might have affected my string of bads here. But yeah, bad.
I read them in 2 strings.
I can't change my mind because I don't, without rereading it. But I'm gonna say bad.
So Resurrection Man seems like a really cool concept that they're running into the ground.
You actually think the concept is cool of a guy who doesn't die and keeps coming back?
I think it could be cool as take the Highlander concept, which people really dig. And
I don't dig it that much.
But you actually kill the guy, and he just wakes up, Shadowrun, the SNES game style, a couple of days later. But no, every time he wakes up, he has some superpower, and again, the plot was kind of boring and incomprehensible.
Okay, so first of all, the art in this was horrendously awful. I showed you the rib boob.
I guess I didn't notice that because I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, but it's like some of the art in this is just hideous and inconsistent and doesn't stay on model really, and I can't tell who's who a lot, and it's just like, what the fuck? Yet again, there's another comic with an airplane involved. How many of those are there? All of them, I guess. The art style also seems to change from page to page a lot. Like, I don't know. It's just all over the place.
I also like the story of maybe, Final Destination style. They're trying to kill him dead because he's supposed to be dead. But it's like they took that story and they put superhero crap into it.
Yeah.
Notice how I say this about a lot of these.
What's disappointing about this is this is written by Abnett and Lanning. Now, Abnett and Lanning actually wrote a whole bunch of Marvel comics, all the more recent cosmic outer space Marvel comics that I actually like a lot. They went downhill over time. They started off good and they went down to meh, but I actually liked them. But this Abnett and Lanning book is not good. So there you go. Just because, no one's perfect. Jeff Lemire wrote a bad book.
Yep.
Abnett and Lanning wrote a bad book.
It just, I don't know. It feels like one of those pulp comics from a long time ago, and they're trying to recapture that, I think.
I like pulp comics from a long time ago.
But it's a little too...
Like a nice Flash Gordon?
I just feel like the storytelling in this general sense is kind of hard to explain, but it feels like a lot... Like Demon Knights had the same problem. Like it feels like this kind of... The DC crap just edges its way back in, even if the story would have otherwise been good. Like, they do this certain kind of portrayal of the story that just reminds me, oh, yeah, I'm reading a superhero comic book that's actually kind of generic.
Well, I think what these people... Right, I get the feeling that a lot of these books like this, right? The books that aren't necessarily superhero books directly, but are still DC Universe, they're looking at Sandman... And they're looking at Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and how those books were able to be sort of, dark and sort of mystic and magical.
You're right. I hereby dub this a wannabe of that kind of comic.
Right. They're all these books like that are looking at those two examples that had a little bit of superhero world. They're in the DC universe, but they managed to keep most of it out, but a little bit in, and it totally worked. And they're looking at those books and trying to be that, and totally failing because Abnett and Lanning, as much as I liked some of their previous works, are not Neil Gaiman, and they're not Alan Moore, and nor can they be. They should stick to being Abnett and Lanning, which is, if they had stuck to being Abnett and Lanning and done, say, you know what? Actually, I like their outer space stuff in Marvel so much. Maybe you should have had the Jeff Johns do the Resurrection Man and had the Abnett and Lanning do the Green Lantern. Maybe it could have been the first goddamn good Green Lantern.
I would have rather seen Jeff Lemire do the Resurrection Man, because then he'd focus
better
on the
than
guy
the Frankenstein.
the guy being sad and alone because he keeps undying.
Yeah, something like that could have worked out. Anyway,
so.
What did you put? So for Resurrection Man, what do you have?
I'm gonna go with meh, just because in week 2, some of the stuff was so bad that I'd feel really awkward putting Resurrection Man in the same category as Legion Lost.
I know, just 'cause that's why you need a 5-star system is the best. Because in a 5-star system, you'd give it a 2, and you'd give the Legion Lost the 1.
I'll say meh, because I would read one more of this to see if it goes anywhere or gets interesting. But I would not read any more Legion Lost if you paid me to.
That's true. Okay.
Suicide Squad.
Suicide
Scott,
Squad.
I didn't know that was Harley Quinn until they said her name.
Same thing, exactly.
Okay.
I did not know at all because the character design was changed and she wasn't acting like Harley Quinn
Not at
all.
I liked her hammer, and some of the flashbacky stuff was more like her.
Yep.
But the her in the present of this comic was just boobs with a hammer.
Yeah.
And the story is kind of cliche.
Yeah.
We've got a Suicide Squad of criminals that we've put explosion collars on, only in this case we injected them so we don't have to draw an explosion collar. And we send them to do suicide missions that they'll always survive.
Okay.
It's hardcore.
So first of all, right, King Shark is fucking awesome.
Yeah, King Shark.
Just because he's a fucking shark.
King Shark is... I like... The dynamic, like the characters, to be fair, are actually characters in this.
That is true.
They have personalities.
Absolutely, and
King Shark is basically.
I wish they would have gone more all out with that. It would have been better. Actually,
King Shark is like Dr. McNinja crossed with Radiskull.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of liked where this was going up until the reveal that they were all, battle royale or whatever. Right? If it was like, oh, this is getting good. Oh, that's what it is. Ah, dang it. It's like they were going in a good direction, but then it wasn't actually. The reality was better than the lie.
I'd rather them have like a more complex hook to be there. Like they're not forced to be there. There's no just, oh, the explosion collar, you got to do this, but more.
No, I would have rather had just be like, let's fucking make mischief, bitches. Oh yeah, and have them sort of be all out, sort of kooky, making mischief, fucking shit up.
Oh my god, I would read that.
Yeah, right.
Harley Quinn goes around just being Harley Quinn.
Right, with fucking King Shark and these other dudes.
Yeah.
If you just let them loose instead of, reining them in to be yet another, forced together acronym team to go fight against the other organization. If you would have just let them loose, but kept them together because maybe they were all getting revenge on the same person or something. Maybe, what you could have done? Like 1 page, you're all trapped, you're all going to work for me. Next page, we totally just smashed your stupid system on fucking King Shark, and then them getting their revenge on it would have been, oh, fuck yeah, let them, been sweet. So there was potential there, which actually I put meh.
I also put meh because I like the characters enough to where I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I think you encapsulated my thoughts too, that I don't feel like the characters are going to be given enough room to thrive to where I'll care.
Yep. Also, fucking King Shark.
King Shark is the best. When he just fucking bites that guy's arm like, ah!
What? They should have just made fucking King Shark the book.
I would have
10, 22 pages of biting. That would have been great. Best book.
King Shark and Radiskull, an epic adventure.
Okay, so Superboy, the last book of this week.
So a lot of people...
Is this Astro Boy or what?
It's Astro Boy. Straight up. Now, here's the thing.
This is Astro Boy, the same way the Lion King is.
Many people hinted to me saying, oh, yeah, Rim's obviously
just look at this fucking page. It's Astro Boy without the hair.
Yep.
Come on.
But I did like
the art's actually really good. I like it.
I did like the fact that the whole Smallville thing kind of gets explained, that it was a virtual reality to figure this guy out.
Well, because, this is going on, right? It's like... This isn't a story of Superman's youth. This is a story of someone who is not Superman. He's like a robot android something, Astro Boy. But they want him to be like Superman, so they need to give him similar memories or experiences to Superman. So he gets the virtual reality, Smallville in sort of the Matrix style, which is sort of like, oh, that's pretty cool. But actually, I would have rather read that, that Smallville comic than read the Astro Boy comic, because I already read Astro Boy.
Now,
and it was better than this.
But I've noticed I didn't point it out in all of them because I didn't, I stopped noting it after I saw it so often. But a lot of these comics are making very quick oblique references to fan culture or current events in ways that reek of trying to be pop culture-y edgy.
Yeah.
Like in this one, the white-haired girl is like, I totally wasn't a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, really? That line kind of came out of nowhere.
I do want to give some props to this book. This book was a very high meh, almost good.
Almost good.
Yeah, the props I want to give it are, number one, there was no fighting in it, and there was only one explosion.
Yep.
Almost every other book has like an obligatory action scene. There's like 5 pages of superhero battling. No battling in here. None whatsoever, right? There's one explosion, and that's it. Also, I wrote boots. Is someone wearing cool boots or something?
There were some really good, multiple people had really good footwear in the art. I also had a note about that.
Oh, yeah. I like that footwear. Also, proper nouns ahoy, yet another acronym organization working on evil science or good science.
But I did like how the expected story of, they're going to kill him, she sets him free. Well, it was building up to that in the beginning, and then immediately that was not it. He, when they try to kill him, she doesn't stop them. She's like, oh, well, this is sad. And then when he blows up, all those people die. She doesn't let him free. She puts him back in the fucking lab.
Yeah, I actually kind of wish they would, it would be really cool if they took this book, right? And you could even leave the Astro Boy story. But what you do is you make that girl the focus. Like, everything is from her perspective, and like the Superboy is like just sort of barely in it, in the background.
He's the force of nature.
Right. He's sort of like not even there, but it's all about this girl. Like, you show her going home at night, and the Superboy is just sort of there-ish. That would have been fucking awesome.
Because then you could do a whole thing where his thoughts are really just
and
her
because the girl's
projecting.
actually pretty cool.
Yeah, but like her projecting on him and her having, expecting all these reactions to situations or expecting all these sorts of things, but really it's just her projection. She can't understand him. He's totally alien to her.
Yeah, and he's...
But no, they didn't go in that direction. And, to go from you saying props, my biggest con with this, and it's funny because everyone told me that they thought I'd really like this one, and they're probably going to be surprised that I give it a meh. It reeks a little too much of effort. Like, it's trying too hard to be poignant and serious, and it's not doing it terribly elegantly.
Maybe. I like the arts.
I like the arts too. It was a little too, the monologues of Superboy were a little too forced.
Oh, yeah,
what am
definitely
I?
those.
Who am I? Oh, this is a simulation.
What do you see?
Yeah.
What do you see?
But in this case, he's like, what do I see? I see this and this and this and this and this.
Yep.
So I'm going to have to give it a meh just for that because it could have been so much better, but they didn't
I also gave it a meh, but it was almost good.
It's funny to me how I've given one of these comics a meh because it wasn't crazy enough, and yet the ones that I hate the most are the craziest ones.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a certain kind of crazy. Like, there's over-the-top crazy. Like, if
I think
King
what
Shark,
it is it's just about, it's not about that you like crazy or you like uncrazy. It's like, given this sort of raw material, what direction do you take it? And it seems like they take the raw materials in the opposite direction of whatever direction they naturally want to go in to make a balance. Whereas what they should do is they should just take it to the extreme. If something wants to go crazy, let it be crazy.
And then you get Legion Lost. It wants to be what it is, and it is what it is.
At least it's for somebody, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I have to give it that.
With 52 comics, not all of them are going to be for
everyone. I mean, if you
everyone.
really like incomprehensible bullshit, Legion Lost is probably one of the better comics you could read.
There are 52 of them. There's no way they could possibly all be good, nor would I expect them to be, because that would mean they would all be catering to me, which is not a good idea. You want to have some of them cater to different groups. So, but I don't know. Whatever. You still should let them go in the direction they naturally want to go.
I think that's pretty much it.
That's it for week 2. Next time on week 3, we got Batman, Catwoman, more Green Lanterns.
Oh my God, that Green Lantern shit.
More legions of superheroes, and Wonder Woman with the cool cover.
I feel
and
like
more.
Week 1 is my favorite week. Week 4 is my second favorite week because I kind of liked Aquaman.
Well, we'll see. We'll get there.
But seriously, Blue Beetle, that's the only one I didn't read yet from week 3. The fuck's the Blue Beetle's deal? Because I see him, he comes up a lot.
It's a guy who's got sort of this mechanical, it's like an outer space.
So Iron Man.
No, it's a magical scarab that came from outer space, and you turn into Iron Man that way instead of being Iron Man because you're rich.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine if like an alien artifact came in the window, and you took it, and it turned into cat armor.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.